What's up, guys? It's Rip City Rundown, and I'm back with another video. It's been a minute since we talked about Portland Trail Blazers rumors and the roster in general, because obviously this roster seems like it's set. We have our 15 players, and it seems like those are the guys we're going to run to start the season. Now, obviously, Didi Louzada just a couple days ago got released, giving Portland another open roster spot. And today I'm going to talk about how I think I would want to fill up that roster spot and how I think the Blazers could or would fill that roster spot. So before I get into the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll show you this clip right here about an announcement that we have coming up. Big things are coming to Rip City Rundown. It's coming in October. We will be launching our website and dropping our first set of merchandise. We will be dropping black, red, and white shirts all across the board, from Rip City Rundown themed merch to Trailblazers inspired merch as well. Sweatshirts and hats will be included as well. The first drop will be limited edition, so go follow our Twitter and Instagram so you don't miss out on any of this news. We're super excited about this next step in our brand, and we hope you guys enjoy. All right, so I tweeted this the other day, and it gained a lot of traction from a lot of sources. And it's the fact that the Blazers could possibly target Jared Vanderbilt. I think this is even more likely now that we officially have seen the Utah Jazz are going into a full rebuild. They have traded Rudy Gobert, and as of just 2 hours ago, they have traded Donovan Mitchell to the Cavaliers. That leaves them with no hopes of winning this year. A lot of guys are still on the market. They've mentioned that Mike Conley's on the market, Jordan Clarkson, Bojan Bogdanovic are the three main pieces that they're trying to get rid of. The guys they got back in the Donovan Mitchell deal are guys that they probably want to keep, including the guys they got back in the Rudy Gobert deal. They really got a lot of young assets in those deals, so it makes sense for them to want to keep them. Now, Jared Vanderbilt is one of those young assets. He's only 23 years old, and he's on a very solid contract, but he's only on a 2-year contract. He has 2 years left in his contract. About $4.5 million is what it averages out, but he'll be a free agent in the 2024-2025 season. Now, if Utah sees Jared Vanderbilt and says this guy is really going to be a part of our future, then this is not going to be an option. The Blazers won't be able to trade for him. But I don't think he's really a part of their future. I think Colin Sexton is the main piece of their future. I think draft picks are most important to them, and then just young assets that are controllable and cheap. I don't think Jared Vanderbilt will be that cheap in 2 years for what he does. He's obviously a guy that doesn't shoot. He's not going to score the ball. He's there to rebound and play defense. He averaged like 9 rebounds next to Cat last year, and he plays really solid defense. And I think the Blazers could easily target him, and he would be the perfect backup center to Jusuf Nurkic. Right now we have no other really big man other than Jusuf Nurkic. We have Drew Eubanks, but I don't think Drew Eubanks was really brought back to be the backup center. I think he was there for just depth. I think our backup center right now is going to be Jeremy Grant is going to be running backup center. Trenton Watford and those guys obviously are undersized. Now, Jared Vanderbilt is also undersized, but he plays bigger than what he is. He's a rebounder. He crashes the glass and he plays defense. So there are 2 things that the Blazers really need. Now, what would it cost? That's the key thing. Danny Ainge is a very stingy GM. We know this from his times in Boston. He got 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, and at one point he was asking for like 6 or 7 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, he only ended up getting 3 and then 2 pick swaps. But right now, I think he wants a first-round pick for Jared Vanderbilt, which is not something the Blazers will do or can do. We don't really have a first-round pick that we can part ways with other than like a 2027 and a 2029. But obviously, the Blazers aren't going to mortgage that far into their future for a guy that's not going to put him over the hump. He's just going to help them get better in a small aspect of the game. And that turns to how would we get him? I think the best way that we could get him is either trade 2 second-round picks, try to hope that his value goes down, or include a guy like Keon Johnson or Justice Winslow. Keon Johnson is a guy that will be cheap. He hasn't showed much in the NBA, but as we saw in Summer League, he's got potential to be an NBA player. He was very good in Summer League. He can run an offense, and he could be a really good young piece to add to that core for the Utah Jazz. Justice Winslow, on the other hand, not as young, not as cheap as of right now, but he's still young, and he's still a very good NBA player. And I think this is all if they just aren't willing to pay Jared Vanderbilt 2 years down the line. But that's 2 years down the line, so this is a long shot deal, but I think it is even more likely now that they have proven they are going into a full rebuild, because Jared Vanderbilt, while he is young, he's also a win-now player. I think the other way that the Blazers could fill that final roster spot is going into free agency. I tweeted again, and I tweeted 3 names that I think the Blazers could go after as a backup big. One is LaMarcus Aldridge, one is Dwight Howard, and one is DeMarcus Cousins. All those guys would be cheap enough for the Blazers to get, I believe. If those guys are asking for a lot of money and they're still in free agency, that's why they're in free agency, because they're asking for too much money. Personally, I would love to bring back LaMarcus Aldridge because, yes, the backup big is an important part, and if we got a really good player for that spot, it would help a lot. But it's not like it's the end of the world if we don't have that. If we could bring back a guy that brings leadership, brings the occasional scoring off the bench if we need him, and overall it's just a feel-good story, I would love to do that. Bringing back LaMarcus Aldridge, I personally think that would be awesome. The other guy I would want to mostly bring back or bring in is DeMarcus Cousins because he, obviously, as we saw in Denver, he can help you right now in a high level at a backup center. He's still a very solid NBA player. Some people don't believe it. Some people don't like him. Personally, I don't have a problem with him. I like the fight he brings. DeMarcus Cousins would be interesting to bring in, and all these would just be on one-year deals, probably a minimum. I don't even know how much money we have to spend. And then Dwight Howard was the last guy. I think that's the least likely just because I think he could be on the verge of retiring. I mean, he joined the WWE, so I don't even know if he wants to play basketball at this point. But this final roster spot for the Blazers is going to be really interesting because Joe Cronin has already talked about in the past how they do have too many guards. And yes, we got rid of a guard in Didi Louzada, but I feel like he was not really putting Didi Louzada into that equation when talking about how many guards he has because Didi Louzada was never going to see the floor this year. He struggled in Summer League and he never really got his footing with the Blazers in the few games he played last year. So we still have too many guards on this roster. You got your Dame, Ant, you still have Gary Payton, who guard/forward, either or. You still have Josh Hart. You still have Brandon Williams, and I'm probably forgetting names as well. But we have too many guards on this roster. I could still see one getting traded. I think the most likely guys to get traded right now are Keon Johnson, who I didn't even mention in the guards. Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow, and maybe Josh Hart. I would love to stick with Josh Hart. And I still love Keon Johnson. But sometimes you have too much. And if you're obviously trying to win now, like the Blazers are, you need to cash in on the young guys you have now, especially if you have too many out of position. I didn't even mention Shaedon Sharpe. So we've got a lot of guys. The guys that I've seen possibly putting in a trade for Jared Vanderbilt, no way we're trading Shaedon Sharpe for Jared Vanderbilt. The only guy we would trade is Keon Johnson, second-round picks, or maybe Justice Winslow. I think it's unlikely that this happens because, again, Danny Ainge is just not a fun guy to work with. It is in division, so they probably don't want to trade it to a guy in their division. But they're obviously hitting the full rebuild, so you don't know what can go down when someone hits a full rebuild. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for Joe Cronin to stay on the phones here the next couple weeks. I think there's one more move left in him. I mean, there has to be. We got to figure out who that last guy on the roster is. So hope you enjoyed it. Again, like I said in that clip earlier, we are dropping merch. Make sure to go follow the Twitter and Instagram for more information on that. It is coming in the next month. Look out for that in October, around when the season starts. We're super excited for it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.